Hey, good morning, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Energy, the Untamed Heart podcast. I am here today with a special guest, Darrion, who is just a charming young man. I mean, he could literally be my grandson. And he's just a charming young man who is really making strides in the world, really impacting in his community through not only his words, but also his presence, his clothing style. I got to tell you, this man knows how to dress. I'm sitting in my t-shirt casually, just hanging out with my little cup of coffee, and he presents in a suit and a tie. And y'all can't see this because it's all audio, but let me tell you, he took a lot of time this morning. So without further ado, Darrion, come on on. Welcome to the show.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me.
It's absolutely my pleasure. So I talk to a lot of folks for this podcast because I feel really strongly that we are all very different, but we're all very the same. You know, we have this common thread of love within us. Sometimes it's very visible and sometimes it's kind of tucked away and hidden, but we're all brought here in some way to give lessons and learn lessons to help uplift the collective, everybody, humanity, the whole shebang.
Yeah.
And everybody is here for that, but sometimes it gets hidden. Sometimes we get a little lost along the way with things that we're taught and things that we're told and stories we believe. And it can sometimes be a little difficult and make it a little murky, a little hard to really see the truth of what's really going on with us, within us. So you're on a great journey. You
Thank
do a
you.
lot of public speaking, which I love. You share your thoughts and ideas and feelings with many, and I would love for you to just jump on here and kind of give us a little backstory and how you choose to move through the world.
Yeah, I guess for me, my kind of motion is always joy first, right? I am a big proponent of joy, right? What does it look like to live with joy? And like joy for me isn't just this thing where it's like I wake up every day and it's just amazing and like life's just amazing, it's always going great. Like, no, it's the understanding that life isn't always great, that there are things that you're going to go through, right? In this life, you will have suffering, right? The Bible says that. So, like, understand that you're going to go through some things, but count it all joy. Understand that, you know, in the suffering, you can still rejoice. In the suffering, you can still have some level of joy, some element of that in your life. That's been a big thing in my life, and like I even got some experience with that, right? So I have a story, and is it okay if I tell it there?
Of course you can. You help yourself.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. So I serve during the summer with a Christian summer day camp called Spring Hill, and so this serving I was a counselor over last summer, and it was my first time away from my family. My first like it was a full week, and I was away from my family, staying in a house with a family that I don't know. It was an interesting journey to say the least.
A
It,
challenge.
it
It's
was
a
a challenge. It was a
challenge.
challenge, you know.
Yes.
And so one day, my boss comes up to me and she says, "Okay, it's the end of the summer, and it's time to start cleaning off the water slides." No, right? Why? Because these water slides, we're talking over 3,000 kids have been on these water slides. And so we go to clean them off. We've got the soap and everything and the water hose, and we're cleaning it off to get ready to put it in the shed for the summer or for the rest of the year. And I'm telling you, there's band-aids and locks of hair. And I mean, it was just disgusting. I did not like it. I did not like it very much, Bill. I tell you that. And but there gets to this point where now I'm watching like we clean off the slide and it's all soapy and slippery, and we begin to start to play on the slide. Counselors, you should have seen it. It's a bunch of like somewhere between 16 to I would say 20 something year olds just on a water slide playing around. And then we begin to have this fight with dish soap and water hoses and whatnot. I remember getting backed into the corner. It's like I don't know if you ever had like this experience where it's like you're almost outside of your body, spectating yourself or spectating the people around you. And it's like one of those things where you're just in awe. So I remember getting backed up into a corner in this water slide. And when I tell you I'm watching it, it's like the sun's going down. It was like something out of a movie, right? The sun's going
Right.
down on my coworkers' faces, and it's just like this spectacle of just raw joy,
Yeah.
right? Where it's like, okay, raw joy. And so this is what I got from it. This is what like from like, and this is like was my personal kind of thing. This is what heaven's gonna look like, raw joy. And then it was like, okay, if that's what heaven's gonna look like, how can you spend your life here? How can you spend your days here making life look like that? Even when it's hard, even when it's troubling. Like I'm telling you, it was the best experience I've ever had in my life.
It's a
And
great story. I love it.
yeah,
I love it because what you really describe is the presence of joy and your capacity to sort of bird's eye view and see it, getting outside yourself, because the bird's eye view of it isn't your human watching you on the slide. It's your being, it's your core, it's your essence,
yeah,
your soul, whatever word one wants to put to that, your
yeah,
higher self, whatever that is, watching your human have this experience,
yeah.
and you're able to feel that. And so I call that being present, being in the moment. I also
Amen.
call it, it's in the being, not in the doing.
Yeah,
Scrubbing, band-aids and kids poop off a slide is in the doing.
yeah,
And turning that around to say, well, how can I take this not so great chore task, and how can I find and be curious how we can convert this into something pretty good. And
yeah,
so, sure enough, without even having a conversation like, oh, let's play in the bubbles, let's play on the slide, it's this unspoken draw to joy.
yeah,
And I
yeah.
think sometimes we get caught up in our day to day, in the doing, we do a lot more doing than we do being, is what I'm really trying to say.
Mhm.
We go to our job, or we raise our children, or we whatever the thing may be. And, is it glorious every single moment of every single day? Yeah, not so much, not so
Mhm.
much. But it's also about, how do you choose, and choice and free will here, I think, is a big stink. So, how do we choose what do we want to take from the moment? You could certainly have gone to your slide cleaning problem there and just boohooed and cried about it, and, made it into like, oh, this is the worst thing in the whole wide world. Or you could say, okay, well, this is a chore and a task that we need to do for the betterment of the kids next year, or for the completion of the summer's responsibilities, whatever that is. But how can we kind of make this fun? We can joke around, we can have convo, we can play in the bubbles, we
Yeah,
can, So I think when people talk about living daily in a place of joy, that's a choice to me.
yeah.
It's sort of that old saying, well, a saying, how old it is, I don't even know. Glass half empty, glass half full. You can
Mhm.
take any situation. I happen to call it live in the silver lining theory. Like, no matter how crappy poopy something is for the day, I don't really care what it is. You can choose to lean into the mucky side of it, or you can choose to say, okay, well, this isn't so great, but you know what? There's got to be something good in here. There's got to
Yeah,
be something glorious in here. There's got to be some little twinkle of joy that I can tap into and incorporate here. And
yeah,
so you're very, for a young man, and I'm going to say it flat out, you're a young dude. You're very wise for your years, and that is a gift. That is a gift that has been put into you for a very specific purpose, because you are actually here for all of this. You're here for the yucky cleaning of the slide,
yeah,
and you're here for the playing in the bubbles. You're
yeah,
here to learn what you need to learn, and then share it out so somebody else can benefit from your experience and your expression. And so not everybody comes through it in the same way. You're very eloquent in your speech. You're very intuitive in, oh my gosh, look how I took something not so great and turned it into something else by my own choosing. And that, I'll tell you, that took me decades to figure out. So you're way ahead of the game. Good for you. It's a fundamental lesson if you're going to be a human hanging out and doing this. You want to understand it isn't all going to be rainbows, but it's still going to be a great ride,
yeah,
right? And it's still a gift. Even on the
yeah.
hard days, it's a
Even on the hard
gift.
days.
Yes, sir.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So how did you decide? Because I know you do some pastor work as well, and not just
Yes.
volunteering at the kids' camp. But how did you decide this was the direction that you feel
Mm.
drawn to take, that this is how you choose to bring forward what you feel is important for others to hear?
Yeah, man, it's almost 5 years ago. It's crazy, because for me, it all kind of goes back to my birth, right? So, at my birth, my father, he's always telling me that I'm not supposed to be here. I was a premature baby. I think I was born at 7 months, and the doctor said that I would either one be a mute, I wouldn't be able to speak, or number two, I would die. Like those were the two options for my life. And so the doctors had already put some type of purpose on my life at my birth. And the thing was that it wasn't a purpose that would heal, it was a purpose that would destroy. It was a purpose that would hurt my mother. It was a purpose that would hurt my father and my grandmother. And it was just like that's what was on my life then. So we fast forward a few years ahead. I was 12 years old. COVID had just hit 2020. I think this was like a month after COVID hit. No, no, no. No, it was a year after COVID hit. I'm sorry. A year after COVID had hit, and we were virtual schooling. I was in sixth grade when COVID hit. This time I'm in seventh grade, and I remember just this call to go and spread hope. 'Cause I remember myself, I was hopeless at this time. Who wasn't, right? We're in the middle of this disaster. Is it like, and it's you are seeing our people, our relatives, our friends, people close to us who have impact in our lives, who have influence. We're seeing them pass away or become sick and hurt. And so we too are internalizing our own hurt. And so I remember just sitting and watching that, and I felt the call to go out and to bring hope. And so I ran from it. Because I remember seeing pastors when I was younger. And so there were two sides of this, and I'm so blessed to have seen both sides of what it looks like to be a pastor and what it looks like to evangelize. The first side was the true pastor, my pastor, the one whom I'm under now, Pastor Doug Kimpton and Pastor Kevin Dupree. And so watching them be true pastors, and this was before I even knew Kevin, it was just Doug at the time. And so being humble, being eloquent in your speech, but also having the spirit, right? Being able to minister and have a servant's heart to not even get up there and say, "Oh, I'm the pastor," right? No, like I'm a servant first. And so to watch that, but then to watch people in my family, pastors who had been pastors for generations, right? I'm the first pastor, whatever, in my immediate family, and so extended wise, you've got the pastors who come out and they get in the pulpit and they preach. And it's a good sermon. Don't get me wrong. But then they get off the pulpit and they take their wife and then they go and they drive away in a Bentley in a meat coat. After saying, "Give me $1,000, I'm feeling a call. Somebody better give me $1,000 of your money today and bring it down to the altar." Or I'm gonna be frank here, or they go home and they beat their wife. Or they take the money and they go to a club. I've gotten to see both sides of this pastor thing play out. And so I had to choose what type of pastor am I gonna be? And I think that's why I ran from it for some time. So April 15th, 2021, I'm sitting in my grandmother's prayer closet and I'm praying. It's 10:18 p.m. I just got out the shower and I'm praying. I'm like, okay, we're not doing this pastor thing. Anything else? And so it was almost like a flashback of the past 12 years that I had already lived. And it was already so short, yet it goes back to this kind of time, and not a flashback because I can't remember the exact moment, but I was a newborn. I can't remember that exact moment, but I kind of think back to this conversation I had with my dad. And so I'm thinking about how grace had been a story in my life from my birth. And so I don't know whether I was thinking these words or I heard them audibly, like I don't know, but these words kind of go through my mind. If you don't do what I'm telling you to do, then my grace won't be with you in whatever you do. Why? Because there was a destiny that was there. there was some type of hope that was there. There was this level of, I'm trying to use you to bring people out of their darkness. And you need to understand that it's not going to grow into this spit things like right away. You're not going to be the best speaker right away. You're not going to be a good speaker right away. You're not going to be able to understand everything that you read in that word right away, but it'll come in time. So I just need you to listen and be attentive and be present. I need you to be obedient to what I'm saying right now. And so, I mean, this is right there, April 15th, 2021. Not even, I don't think I have my wallet near me. So I go online that day after that prayer, or the next day after that prayer, and I get ordained. Get ordained. And it was the moment that started to turn the wheels. And so, I mean, this is coming up on 5 years, April 15th this year. And it has been an amazing journey. Like, just from starting off as at 5 years old, my grandmother's just taking me to church just to take me to church, to I opened my own ministry online, to now it's pretty much shut down. So I've gone back to my home church and I'm serving there, and so it's just been an amazing journey. I mean, I can't wait to see what else is there.
Absolutely. So, what I really love in what you're describing, what you're expressing, it is replete regardless of how one chooses to follow their path, whether one chooses to go to an actual four-walled church, temple, or otherwise, whether you're a hermit out in the woods, whatever the thing is, at the end of the day, it is hearing the messages from what is beyond us here, sitting on
Yeah,
earth, however one chooses to believe in that.
yeah,
It is then choosing to either, yes, I hear it and let me act upon this, or yeah, I'm not really hearing you so well, and you make
yeah,
other choices. So that's the first thing that I want to point out to the listeners is you had a very clear message that came through to you in a way that you were able to take it in.
yeah,
So your first message came through. I think it's very interesting that, your doctors decided your adult fate, if you want to call it that, when you had hardly even made it out the womb there. I have a different belief on how that all runs, and it isn't in the hands of the MD, quite frankly, but that's okay. But it also leaves us in a position of when you're here with a particular mission, with a gift, there will be a way for it to come through if you're willing to have the belief, the faith, the trust, and patience, quite frankly. And I'm going to
yeah,
say some grit and resilience,
yeah,
because there are many people who hear what they believe is, oh, I'm here to serve, or I'm here for a purpose, or whatever it is. And if it doesn't go along in their timeline, oh, is this happening by Thursday at 2? If it doesn't happen the way they believe it needs to be, which is where they start to take their humanness and want to control things, as opposed to their truth of who they really are, which is you are part of the big picture, part of the big creation, and
yeah,
you're here in a space of service. But
yeah,
again, truly, Darrion, that's a choice. There are many people who don't choose that path. And
yeah,
that's okay because
yeah,
they have their own path, and so be it. So, what I really also appreciate is your very direct and clear and openness that the fact that one may be given the title of I am here in a position of service to God or the greater beyond, whatever wording one wants to put to it, doesn't equal that you don't have human frailties, like these pastors who decide to drive off in a fancy car or spend their money down street, or maybe they're not so nice to their spouse behind closed doors. Those things that go on, one, they're choices, and
yeah.
two, it's not just choices, but it's also a piece of their humanness that
Hmm.
has its own story,
Yeah,
because the deepest piece of us which is nothing but pure love and pure joy and pure bliss at the deepest place, would not engage in said activities
Yeah.
because it's contrary to what's for the greater good of all. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think you're very wise in that you've seen both sides of the mirror, both sides of the coin, if you want to call it that. And you're also very blessed that you have mentors who are able to help you along and guide you, not tell you what to do, but give you a frame of reference so that you can make choices that fit best for you.
Yeah.
And that is really key because again, who we choose to surround ourselves with influences a lot of times, excuse me, how do we choose to move through the world? And
Yeah.
sometimes we move through the world a little bit with blinders because we don't know any better. We're sort of a little bit in the dark till somebody shines a light. And then other times we find that person and you know that person's aligned for what works best for you because it just feels right. Like it makes sense
Yeah.
to you. You don't have to
Yeah.
second guess it. You don't have to think about it.
Yeah.
And as for whether you do your ministry online or whether you do it in person, listen, you're doing the deal. I
Yeah.
mean, you're serving in the capacity for which you were brought here to serve, and that's great. I think it's very interesting that you say the doctor said you might be a mute and never speak because you're quite eloquent and you articulate your ideas very clearly. You can tell I have that gift of gab. I tend to talk quite a bit. But it's really beautiful because it really clearly says don't allow what appears to be the external definers of who you might be by somebody else's perception to who and what you will become and in what way will you show up. You're
Yeah.
clearly here to spread information and wisdom, and obviously you're not mute. So
Yeah. There we
there you
go.
go.
Yeah.
Right here
There we
and here it
go.
is.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So tell me
Absolutely.
what do you find when you are serving your community? What I got to think how to ask this. What piece of how you show up brings you personally the greatest sensation and feeling of joy?
Mm, that's a good question. It's it's never okay, don't get me wrong, right? I love to talk. That's my favorite thing to do. And it's a gift and I take it as a gift, but at the innermost kind of deep of me, that isn't all there is, right? And so when I'm on the stage talking, I love it. It's fun. It's my thing. It's my jam, but that's not it, right? And so I always say that I have more fun off the stage than I do on the stage. I have more fun when I'm in the classroom with the kids, teaching the kids. I have more fun when I'm at the door greeting people. Like that's my heart at the service level is greater than my heart at the teaching level. And so what I always say is that it's the heart at the service level that strengthens the teaching because that's where the lessons are. The lessons aren't in like yeah, they're in okay, I'm spending the 8 hours. The sometimes for me, like I can get really passionate. If you can't tell, I get really passionate. And so sometimes I'm spending 20, 30 hours a week in study for the teaching that I'm going to teach on that Sunday or that Wednesday or whatever. So sometimes I'm spending 30 hours. Sometimes I end up like I run the Bible club at my school. And so there are many times where I'm sitting on my floor crying, like, Lord, let them just get it. But that isn't the deep of it because that's where the 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 application of what I've learned as a servant takes place. And so at the service level, I believe that we're called for far greater than what the gift is. Whether it's singing or dancing or whether it's building things or whatever it may be, the lessons will be in what it takes to get there. The lessons for me are in like this Sunday, I'm going to go and I'm going to teach the third graders at my church. That's where the lesson is for me. It's spring break for me. So I'm gonna go and meet with people and go have lunch and go to the cafe and like just talk with people. That's the service level for me. That's where it's at. That's where my heart is fulfilled. That's where, what do we say, my cup is run over, right? It's in those moments. It's never on the teaching side, even though that's what I love doing. And that's what I think I'm gonna spend the rest of my life doing, quite frankly. It's never in that. It's always in the service.
So I will share with you what I hear you saying between what you are saying, and it's very beautiful. The service piece of it is, as you say, from the heart. For you, it is in the connection,
Yeah,
because the connection is the common thread that we all carry, regardless of what we're doing in our lives, our age, our geographic location, our previous education, our career, whatever it
yeah,
is, it doesn't matter, because the common thread that binds us all to one another is at the heart level, it is at the soul level.
yeah,
And the fact that you have that clarity now, and that we all have things we're good at, right? We
yeah,
all have
yeah.
skills we're good at. Don't get me wrong. I have a day job, I'm really good at it. I have some other things that I do that I'm technically very skilled with. I can talk all day long, I
Love
have
it.
that.
Let's go.
I do, right? I do
Yeah,
have that. And I love to have conversation like this where we exchange ideas and we don't have to say you're right, I'm wrong. It's just, we can just have a conversation, and that's great, which is a huge reason why I created this podcast to start with. Is I just want to have other people have an opportunity to hear different people's lives and stories, and how they show up, and what's important, and how they really tap into their heart space. And that's really the gig for me. And
yeah,
what I really appreciate in what you're saying is that you have already discovered that while you love to teach and you enjoy teaching, the place that really hits home for you is in the human connection, is in the soul
yeah,
to soul connection, and that whole piece. And you're pretty darn clear that you really like hanging out with the kids and bringing them along. And
yeah,
I love this for you, because the first 8 years or so of our childhood were very much just molded by whatever exposure we have, our parents, our
yeah,
school, our church, our whatever the thing is, right?
yeah,
Because it takes almost those first 8 years before our brain can actually separate into what is our subconscious, what is our conscious. And it just chronologically, that's just the way science works. That's just how
yeah,
it goes. And then it's from that 8-ish on is where we start to incorporate how do we feel and believe based on the patterning and the stories and the what you're exposed to, which I believe is why we have people that call it go down a different path, call it don't make the greatest choices, call it whatever you
yeah,
want to call it. But that is because those patterns are set in place at a particular place in our childhood. And it takes us a long time to unwind the story and
yeah,
understand it isn't the thing that defines you. What defines you is deep inside you. And I really appreciate that you're pretty clear the difference between what I'm good at doing and what makes me feel at peace and with joy within my heart.
yeah.
So again, I say, you're like wise beyond your years is what I'm going to say. And
Thank you.
I would agree with you that I think your place moving forward as the years tick along for you is going to be a combination, honestly, of increasing connection in your community. And I can actually see you taking this far beyond just your local community, but you won't stay in your town forever. But it's also, with the way technology is available to us, the capacity for you to bring your place of service to those in need is really like sky's the limit. There's no end to it. You can do it through writing, you can do it through speaking, you can do it through whatever. And when you talk about these different avenues, you're absolutely right. They are all modalities of an exchange of language, in a way, of
Yeah,
how do we hear what our heart speaks. Some of us hear it in dance, some of us hear it in music, some of us hear it in writing, some of us hear it, whatever, walking in nature. So again, there is a difference between the teaching and the being, and the fact that you've tapped into that, So early on. Kudos to you, my friend. Kudos. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. If you had something that you wanted to share specifically with folks that hopefully are going to be listening to this once I get this released for you, what would be your sharing, wisdom, offering, support, info you'd like to leave folks with?
Learn to live. That's it. Learn to like seriously. The moment that I like as humans, we can spend so much of our lives living in the past, but living in the future. But we never truly live in the present. Like I have this writing I write every day in my journal, and one of the writings is like basically the past is saying leave me, the future is saying I'm coming, but the present is saying I'm right here. The present is continually knocking at the door, waiting on you to answer so they could come in and just be with you. So live in the present. Notice the beautiful things, right? There was a moment in time back in June. I was in a car accident with my grandmother. I was driving her. I just got my driver's license, and so I'm driving across the main street, and my grandmother's in the passenger seat, and we have the right of way. We have the green on this main street, and so I'm coming across my green. I just pressed the accelerator, so I'm probably going 15 miles per hour at this point, and this Challenger comes across their red, going about it has to be 60 miles per hour. Boom, and their car spins out. My car goes towards the light pole, and so it's something because the police told me that the car stopped on its own right in front of the light pole, like an inch away from the light pole. It stopped. So that's a whole nother story within itself. And so I remember everything went black for me, and then next thing I know, I'm stepping outside of the car. I'm just looking around, and I'm watching there's a flock of birds going across the sky. And so I go over and I get my grandma out the car and I make sure she's safe and whatnot. And I remember just like turning to like this super like I was Superman during this time. It was something else. But it if I didn't get out the car to notice those birds, if I didn't get out the car to notice my surroundings, I would have very easily been led to a panic. I would have very easily been led to spiral out. This is Detroit. Everything was telling me to go and argue with the car that I had just got to a car accident with. But no, I took time. I became present. I grounded myself in that moment, and it led me to be patient with my panicking grandmother, with the people who had, quite frankly, caused the accident and I wasn't very pleased with in the moment, with the people around me, with the police officers who I was very agitated with because they kept asking me questions like, my grandmother's hurting. Can we get her to the hospital? And so it took everything in me not to panic in that moment, especially like, and I believe that whole nother belief that there's this stigma around the American male where it's like, okay, you got to be like, and especially like for men of black descent, it's like you got to have this kind of anger to you at all times, and it's like, no, man, you have to allow there to be a level of peace in your life. So what I'm saying to you, what I submit to you, is be present because that's what can change your life. Live in the moment because that's what can bring you joy and peace. And so that's my submitting to you. That's what I bring to you this day.
I love it. I love it because regardless of what our backgrounds are and what we personally believe in and anything outside of what goes on day to day and the sun comes up and the sun goes down, you're really so spot on with can you let go of the other things for just a few moments and be
Mm-hmm.
in this moment, be
Yeah.
present not just in the moment and see what's around you, but can you be present with yourself?
Yeah.
Can you live the now, because the
Live
now,
the
quite
now.
frankly, is all you get.
I love
The
that.
truth is, it's now. That's it. You can
Yeah.
only have the now. You are such an absolute charm to talk with. I
Oh,
thank you
thank you.
so much for your time this morning. It's been
Thank you for
so,
having me.
so good. Absolutely. If people want to tap into you, your fashion style, your brain, your heart, your soul, what you share, how do they do that? Where's the best place to find Darrion?
Instagram. That's where I am. At I am Darrion G on Instagram. You can also just go and type in my name. That I think that should work too. And for style inspiration at DG Refine on Instagram. And that's where you'll find me. That's where I am.
Fabulous. I love this. Thank you again for taking the time. I'm going to put the links into the show notes. So for people who need to see it written out, they'll catch that. And I'll let you enjoy the rest of your weekend.